A poor village mother gives up everything to raise her son. But when success finally comes, he's ashamed to call her his own. This is the story of how a brilliant doctor became a monster, and how only a mother's love could make him human again. Sarah's face filled with sympathy. "Oh, darling, I'm so sorry. Why didn't you tell me before? You must miss her terribly." "I don't like to talk about it. It's too painful." "Of course, I understand. She must have been very proud of you before she died." Emeka nodded, hating himself, but unable to take back the words. From that day on, whenever anyone asked about his parents, he would say they were both dead. It was easier than explaining the truth. Meanwhile, in the village, Mama Kemi continued her daily routine of work and prayer. She still cooked Emeka's favorite meals and kept them warm, hoping he would surprise her with a visit. She still saved money to send to him every month. She still bragged to the neighbors about her son, the doctor. "My Emeka is healing people in Lagos," she would say proudly. "He is so busy saving lives that he cannot come home, but I know he thinks of me every day." But Emeka wasn't thinking of her. He was planning his wedding to Zarah, introducing her to his colleagues as his fiancée, and building a life that had no place for the woman who had sacrificed everything to make it possible. The day was coming when his two worlds would collide, and the lies he had built his new life on would come crashing down around him. Dr. Emeka's life seemed perfect. He was about to be promoted to head of the pediatrics department at his hospital. His wedding to Zarah was planned for the following year. He had a beautiful apartment, a successful practice, and the respect of everyone who knew him. But on a busy Tuesday morning in March, his perfect world was about to shatter. Emeka was in his office at the hospital, reviewing patient files, when his secretary knocked on his door. "Doctor, there's an elderly woman here to see you. She says she's your mother." Emeka's heart stopped beating for a moment. "What did you say?" "An elderly woman. She's been waiting in the lobby for 2 hours. She says her name is Mama Kemi and that she's your mother. Should I tell her you're not available?" Emeka's hands began to shake. He had nightmares about this moment, but he never thought it would actually happen. How had she found him? What was she doing here? No, I'll come down and see what she wants." With trembling legs, Emeka took the elevator down to the hospital lobby. When the doors opened, he saw her immediately. His mother was sitting on a bench near the reception desk, looking small and out of place in her simple dress and worn shoes. She was holding a plastic bag that probably contained food she had brought for him. She looked older than he remembered. Her hair was completely grey now, and her face was lined with wrinkles from years of hard work and worry. But her eyes were bright with excitement and love as she waited to see her son. When she saw him approaching in his white doctor's coat, her face lit up like sunshine. "Emeka, my son!" she called out, standing up and opening her arms wide. The entire lobby turned to look. There were other doctors, nurses, patients, and visitors all watching this reunion. Among them, Emeka saw Dr. Williams, his colleague who was competing with him for the promotion. He saw Nurse Grace, who had been flirting with him for months. He saw Mr. Adebayo, one of the wealthy board members of the hospital. And walking through the front door at that exact moment was Zarah, coming to have lunch with him as they had planned. Time seemed to move in slow motion as Mama Kemi approached him with her arms outstretched, her face glowing with pride and joy. "My son, the doctor," she said loudly enough for everyone to hear. "I have come to see where you work. I am so proud of you." Everyone was watching. Zarah had stopped in her tracks, staring at the scene. Dr. Williams was whispering something to another colleague. The entire lobby had gone quiet. Emeka's mind raced. He could claim she was a patient, but she had already called him her son. He could say there was some mistake, but she clearly knew his name. He had seconds to make a decision that would change his life forever. "Excuse me," he said loudly and coldly, stepping back from his mother's reaching arms. "I think there's been some confusion." Mama Kemi stopped walking, her arms still outstretched, confusion replacing the joy on her face. Emeka, my son, it's me, your mother. I'm sorry, madam, but I don't know who you are, Emeka said clearly, his voice carrying across the silent lobby. You must have me confused with someone else. The plastic bag fell from Mama Kemi's hands, spilling roasted corn and dried fish across the hospital floor. Her face went completely pale. Emeka, it's me, Mama Kemi, your mother who raised you, who worked day and night to send you to school. Who? Security, Emeka called out sharply, cutting her off. This woman is disturbing the hospital. Please escort her out. Two security guards started moving toward them. Mama Kemi looked around desperately, seeing the stares and whispers of all the people watching. My son, why are you saying this? Don't you recognize me? Her voice was breaking with pain and confusion. I'm not your son, Emeka said loudly and clearly. My mother is dead. I don't know who you are, but you need to leave immediately. The words hit Mama Kemi like physical blows. She staggered backward, her hand reaching for her chest, as if she couldn't breathe. Dead? She whispered. You told people I was dead? Zarah stepped forward, concerned. Darling, who is this woman? What's happening? Nobody important, Emeka said without taking his eyes off his mother. Just a confused old woman. Mama Kemi looked at her son, the boy she had raised, the child she had sacrificed everything for, the young man she had prayed for every single day, and saw a stranger. His eyes were cold and hard. His face showed no recognition, no love, no memory of all they had shared. Please, sir, one of the security guards said to Mama Kemi, you need to come with us. But Mama Kemi couldn't move. She stood there staring at her son, trying to understand how the little boy who used to run to her arms had become this cold man who was denying her existence. I worked 3 jobs, she whispered, more to herself than to him. I went hungry so you could eat. I wore 2 dresses for years so you could have school fees. I prayed for you every night. Security, remove this woman now, Emeka commanded, his voice harsh and loud. As the guards gently but firmly took Mama Kemi's arms to escort her out, she looked back at her son one last time. I will always love you, my son, she said softly, even if you don't love me anymore. The lobby erupted in whispers as the guards led her away. Emeka watched his mother walk out of the hospital, her shoulders bent with grief, her steps unsteady with shock. What a strange woman, Zarah said, linking her arm through his. Good thing you handled that firmly. Some people will try anything to get money from successful doctors. Yes, Emeka replied, his voice hollow. Some people will try anything. But inside, his heart was breaking into 1,000 pieces. And he didn't know that these moments, this terrible, unforgivable moment, was about to set in motion a series of events that would destroy everything he had built. As Mama Kemi walked slowly away from the hospital, tears streaming down her face, she whispered a prayer that would change both their lives forever. God, I don't understand what happened to my son. But if I have failed him somehow, if I am not good enough to be his mother, then let your will be done. I place him in your hands completely. And for the first time in her life, Mama Kemi's prayers for her son stopped. Mama Kemi walked away from the hospital like a person in a dream. Her legs felt weak, and her mind could not understand what had just happened. The son she had carried in her womb, fed with her own blood, and raised with her tears, had looked at her with the eyes of a stranger. She wandered through the busy streets of Lagos without knowing where she was going. Cars honked at her as she crossed roads without looking. People pushed past her as she stood still in the middle of busy sidewalks. But she saw nothing, heard nothing. All she could hear was her son's voice saying, "My mother is dead," over and over again. After walking for hours, she found herself at a bus station. She sat on a wooden bench and looked at the money in her purse, barely enough for the bus ride home to her village. She had spent most of her savings on the trip to Lagos, hoping to surprise her son and maybe stay for a few days to see his life. An old woman selling oranges nearby noticed her crying. "Sister, what is wrong? You look like someone died." Mama Kemi looked up with red, swollen eyes. My son says I am dead." The woman didn't understand, but she sat beside Mama Kemi and patted her shoulder. Sometimes children hurt us more than enemies ever could, but children are still children even when they are grown. As evening came, Mama Kemi finally bought her bus ticket home. The journey would take 4 hours through dark, dangerous roads. But she didn't care about danger anymore. What could hurt her more than what had already happened? During the long ride, as the bus bounced and swayed through the night, Mama Kemi thought about her life. She thought about all the years of sacrifice, all the prayers, all the hope. She thought about the little boy who used to hold her hand and call her the best mama in the world. "God," she whispered as tears rolled down her cheeks, "I don't understand your ways. I gave him everything I had. I loved him more than my own life, but somehow I failed. Somehow, I became something he was ashamed of." When the bus finally reached her village at midnight, Mama Kemi was so heartbroken and exhausted that she could barely walk. The road from the bus stop to her house was dark and uneven. She stumbled several times, her vision blurred with tears and tiredness. She was almost home when it happened. A motorcycle speeding through the dark without proper lights hit her as she crossed the village road. The impact threw her small body several feet through the air. She landed hard on the ground, her head hitting a rock. The motorcycle driver, a young man who had been drinking, panicked and drove away, leaving Mama Kemi unconscious and bleeding in the dirt road. She lay there alone in the darkness for over an hour before Mama Chinyere, who was coming back from checking on her sick grandchild, found her. "Kemi! Kemi!" Mama Chinyere screamed, kneeling beside her friend's still body. "Somebody help! Somebody help us!" The whole village came running. They carried Mama Kemi's broken body to the village clinic, but the nurse there took one look at her and shook her head. "This is too serious for our clinic. She needs a real hospital with proper equipment. We must take her to Lagos immediately." "But who will pay?" someone asked. "She has no money for such expensive treatment." "Her son," Mama Chinyere said. "Her son, Emeka, is a doctor in Lagos. He will take care of everything." So they put Mama Kemi in the back of a pickup truck, with Mama Chinyere holding her head steady, and drove through the night to Lagos. Blood seeped through the clothes they had wrapped around her head injury. Her breathing was shallow and difficult. Several times during the journey, they thought they had lost her. They arrived at the Central Hospital at dawn. It was not the fancy hospital where Emeka worked, but it was the closest one to the village road. The doctors immediately took Mama Kemi into emergency surgery. "She has a severe head injury," the doctor told Mama Chinyere. "She's in a coma. We've done what we can, but now we must wait and pray." "Doctor, her son works at Victoria Island Hospital. His name is Dr. Emeka Okafor. Please, can you contact him?" The doctor wrote down the information. "We'll try to reach him." Meanwhile, at his luxurious apartment in Victoria Island, Dr. Emeka was having the best week of his career. He had just been officially promoted to head of pediatrics. The hospital board had praised his professionalism and leadership. Zarah was planning their engagement party. Everything was perfect. But on that same morning, when his mother lay unconscious in the hospital across town, small cracks began to appear in his perfect life. His phone rang. It was his business partner calling about their private clinic investments. "Emeka, we have a problem. The building we bought for the clinic, there's been a fire. The whole structure is damaged. We've lost everything." Emeka sat up in bed, suddenly wide awake. "What? How is that possible?" "Electrical fire, they think. It happened last night. The insurance company is saying there might be issues with our policy. We could lose everything we invested." This was impossible. Emeka had invested his life savings in that clinic, money he had been saving for years. It was supposed to be his path to even greater wealth and success. Before he could fully process this news, another call came in. This time it was his stockbroker. Dr. Okafor, I'm afraid I have very bad news. The pharmaceutical company stocks you invested in have crashed. There was a scandal about their new drug causing serious side effects. Your entire portfolio has lost 80% of its value overnight. Emeka's hands began to shake. In one morning, he had lost almost all of his money. But the worst was yet to come. As he was getting ready for work, still trying to understand what was happening, his phone rang again. This time, it was an unknown number. Is this Dr. Emeka Okafor? Yes. Who is this? This is Dr. Adeyemi from Central Hospital. Sir, we have a patient here named Kemi. She was brought in last night after a serious accident. The people who brought her said she is your mother. She's in a coma, sir. We need someone to take responsibility for her treatment. Emeka's world stopped spinning. There must be some mistake. My mother is. I don't know who you're talking about. Sir, the woman is critically injured. Whether you know her or not, she gave your name as her next of kin. We need someone to make decisions about her care. Emeka hung up the phone with shaking hands. For the rest of that day, everything in his life began to fall apart like a house built on sand. More bad news kept coming. His car broke down on the way to work, an expensive problem that would cost thousands to fix. By evening, Dr. Emeka sat in his apartment surrounded by bills, bad news, and the growing realization that his perfect life was crumbling around him. And in a hospital across town, his mother lay unconscious, her lips no longer moving in prayer, her hands no longer lifted up to bless the son who had denied her existence. For the first time in Emeka's life, he was living without his mother's prayers, and he was beginning to understand what that meant. 3 days passed, and Dr. Emeka's life continued to unravel like a rope left in the rain. His business investments were completely lost. His savings account was nearly empty, and worst of all, Zarah had begun asking uncomfortable questions about his sudden financial problems. Darling, maybe we should postpone the engagement party until things settle down, she had said the night before. Daddy is concerned about your situation. Emeka knew what Daddy's concern really meant. Zarah's wealthy family was having second thoughts about their daughter marrying a man whose fortune had disappeared overnight. On Thursday afternoon, Emeka was walking through the Central Hospital to visit a colleague when he passed by the intensive care unit. Something made him stop and look through the glass windows of the ICU rooms. His heart nearly stopped when he saw her. There, in bed number 7, lay his mother. She looked so small and fragile, with tubes and wires attached to her body, machines beeping around her. Her head was wrapped in white bandages, and her face was pale and peaceful, as if she were sleeping. Emeka stood frozen outside her room, unable to move forward or backward. He had told himself for 3 days that the hospital call was a mistake, that it couldn't be his mother. But here she was, fighting for her life, and he was the reason she had been walking that dark road alone. Are you family? A voice asked behind him. Emeka turned to see a middle-aged nurse, looking at him with kind eyes. Emeka couldn't form the words. She's been here for 3 days, the nurse continued. Poor woman. The people from her village said she was coming from visiting her son in Lagos when the accident happened. They said her son is a doctor, but we haven't been able to reach him. Emeka's throat felt like sand. Has anyone else come to visit her? Oh yes, many people. She must be very loved in her village. People have been coming since yesterday, taking turns to sit with her and pray. As if summoned by their conversation, the elevator doors opened and 3 elderly women emerged, carrying plastic bags of food and small containers of water. Mama Kemi, we are here again. One of them said softly as they entered the ICU room. "Don't worry, we won't leave you alone." The nurse smiled. "Those women have been here since yesterday morning. They take shifts, so someone is always with her. They keep talking to her, telling her stories, praying over her." Emeka watched through the class as the three women arranged themselves around his mother's bed. He recognized one of them. It was Mama Chinyere, his mother's neighbor. He hadn't seen her in over 5 years. "They truly love her," the nurse continued. "They keep talking about what a good woman she was, how much she sacrificed for her son." Unable to help himself, Emeka moved closer to the window so he could hear what they were saying. "Kemi, my sister," Mama Chinyere was saying, holding his mother's hand. "The whole village is praying for you. We know you are strong. Remember how you used to work 3 jobs and never complained? Remember how you would share your last cup of rice with anyone who was hungry?" Another woman, Mama Ngozi, was wiping his mother's face with a damp cloth. "We brought some palm oil to rub on your skin, just like you used to do for us when we were sick. You always took care of everyone, Kemi. Now let us take care of you." The third woman, whom Emeka didn't recognize, was arranging some flowers in a small jar. "That son of yours doesn't know what he's missing," she said with a sad shake of her head. "If he knew half the things his mother did for him, he would never leave her side." "What do you mean?" Mama Ngozi asked. "Sister Chinyere told me the whole story. How that boy has not visited his mother in 5 years. How she kept sending him money even when she barely had food for herself. How she would fast for days, praying for his success." Emeka's heart began to pound as he listened. Every Sunday, the woman continued, Kemi would walk to 3 different churches to pray for that boy. She would give her last 5 naira as offering, asking God to bless her son's work. She would kneel on those church floors until her knees bled, begging God to make her son successful and happy. "And he became successful," Mama Chinyere added bitterly. "But he forgot where his success came from." "Do you remember," Mama Ngozi said, "how she would not buy medicine for herself when she was sick because she was saving money to send to him? She would say, 'I can suffer, but my son must not lack anything.'" Emeka felt like someone was squeezing his heart with their bare hands. Thank you for watching. If this story touched your heart, please subscribe so you never miss the next part. The story continues Monday. See you then.